Hi, welcome to the Israel First television program. Myself, Martin Blackham, with my wife, Nathalie Blackham. We're here today as Israel is entering a new realm of peace, according to President Trump. But that's not peace in the whole world, but peace maybe in this area. There's still allegedly a war in Iran with Israel, but with Gaza, there seems to be a ceasefire. That's what we're being told. And what's interesting is that recently...
Yeah, this is interesting what you say. This is what we've been told.
And in Tel Aviv, Nathalie, there was a billboard, a large hoarding saying, peace in our time. It's time for a new Middle East. The Jerusalem Post that reported on the billboard claimed that President Trump's 21-point peace plan is yet to be completely finalized in an actual manner, however, may reshape the Middle East and expand the Abraham Accords. You remember the Abraham Accords, which were signed a number of years ago between different Arab nations and Israel. Meanwhile, President Trump has instructed the United States Central Command, the CENTCOM, to establish a U.S. command and control center in Israeli territory for all security coordination in the Gaza Strip, says Israel's N12 News. The new American base in Israel, will coordinate the foreign forces coming into Gaza, according to the report. A senior American general will be based at the base, and hundreds of American soldiers will also be involved in monitoring the implementation of Trump's 21-point peace plan. Soldiers will have expertise in transportation, planning, security, logistics, and engineering, according to officials who have added that the troops have already begun arriving. So they seem to already be here.
Yes, this is again, okay, we want people, you need to think for yourself, all right? And when we see all these things happening very fast, it was at the end of Sukkot, so Sukkot is the Feast of Tabernacle, and we saw flags, of the yellow flags were for the hostages, and they were putting it down just 1 day or 2 days before Trump arrived, which was very fast because it was almost when they announced that he was coming, and they were already preparing. But for that, you need to have preparation beforehand to see the things that are happening. Like you are speaking about the billboard, it needs to be printed. So it means that everything was planned already. Now just think, okay? This is just what I want people to think for themselves, right, and not just listen to the media. But we are here in the land and we can see things. And it was just announced that Trump was coming, and we could see them already taking the flags out and putting the American flags next to the Israeli one. And it was like, wait a minute, they were already in the lorries before we were announced, and you have to make flags. You need, all these things. So this is very interesting for me to see that what the media is saying, but we need to know also how to think for ourselves.
And what the reality is, it's very interesting that one commentator, a young guy, said this is Bible prophecy, isn't it? The peace in our time. Now, what is the cost of peace, Nathalie? We talk about the peace deal and the hostages coming back, and that's wonderful. And the ones that are alive, and we also have the ones who died, were murdered, coming back as well. But what does it entail? Well, actually, 2,000, unbelievable, 2,000 Palestinians will be, or are, or have been, as we're speaking to you today, have been released from Israeli custody. They include a terrorist who joined in the notorious lynching of 2 IDF reservists in Ramallah. You may remember this terrible picture, and the terrorists. He was a terrorist who was involved in the lynching. A Gaza terrorist who raped and murdered a 13-year-old Israeli boy. dozens of other terrorists responsible for suicide bombings.
And also, do you remember we've done some program with Kay Wilson, who had a friend, American, who was killed in front of her eyes, and she was also tortured. And this terrorist also has been released. So we know, even, you know, everybody almost in Israel knows somebody who's been in one of the terror acts, and that we can see the terrorists coming out, which means that it's very bad for security.
Right. Now, the interesting thing is that...
And sorry, the thing is that you need to know also, they are not released in another country. They are released on our doorstep. They are released in Samaria. They are released in Katan,
Well,
in some villages just next to where we live. So it's...
One of the interesting things about what happened is that they say 2,000, it's more than that, because another 1,718 Gazan detainees from October the 7th, 2023 were also released. The families, by the way, Nathalie was mentioning about people knowing different terrorists. The families of the terrorist victims were notified by the government ahead of their release. The terrorists expressed intense pain and grief. Meanwhile, in the Arab villages, there's been celebrations of the release of the terrorists, who were met with raucous applause, Nathalie, as they were arriving in the different Arab villages and Arab towns, and great shouting of Allah Akbar, one of the shouts that the terrorists shout. And it's a tragedy to see so many terrorists released into Israel. It is really a serious issue, much more serious than people are aware. What happens is that there is repeat terrorism. In other words, terrorists who've previously carried out terror attacks.
More than 80%.
Right. So
82, I think.
Right. So the likelihood of a repeat terrorist attack is very likely, and so it's very dangerous for Israel to release so many prisoners. And if you talk to the people in the security services, they will not just agree with you, but tell you that's the current position. Now, one of the interesting things is somebody we've talked about on the program from England is in Israel. Tommy Robinson, freedom fighter Tommy Robinson, has arrived in Israel, and his first stop, his first visit was to the shrine or the memorial for the victims of October the 7th and Hamas terrorists, and he went to see that, and he described how he was so upset by the UK's decision to recognise a Palestinian state when Hamas had carried out so many terror attacks. He came here because he was invited by the Israeli government after the horrific shooting at a synagogue in Manchester. There was a terror attack in the UK. Two Jewish people were killed in Manchester, and he was officially invited...
On Yom Kippur.
Right.
On Yom Kippur.
He was officially invited to visit Israel by the Minister for Diaspora Affairs. In the wake of the horrific Manchester terrorist attack, the Israeli government stands firm with its allies in the United Kingdom. The minister said, "On behalf of the state of Israel, I am proud to host British patriot Tommy Robinson, who will visit Israel in mid-October," which is at the current time. He is a courageous leader on the front line against radical Islam. It's funny that somebody in Israel has to put into words what somebody in the UK is doing.
Yes,
this is the times that we're living in.
This is very interesting what you say, because when there was this murder in Manchester, these two Jewish people on Yom Kippur, we had more insight of what was happening here in Israel than the people in England, because they didn't want to say so much things. But the news were much more free here to know what was happening in the UK. So this was quite interesting to see that.
Right. Now, the minister went on to say, at a time when Jews across Europe face anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism is rising all across Europe, in the UK, particularly with the march, the Palestinian marches, the march to free Palestine, allegedly, wherever that is. These marches that are occurring in the UK are causing a lot of anti-Semitism, and the Israeli minister says, at a time when Jews across Europe are facing anti-Semitism, it's vital to strengthen bonds with allies who refuse to be silent. Yes, this is Tommy Robinson. He's proven himself to be a true friend of Israel and the Jewish people, and unafraid to speak the truth and confront hate. It's very interesting that Tommy Robinson in the UK is accused of being a far-right extremist when he's somebody who's confronting hate. Israel will always stand together with the Jewish community and our allies worldwide. Together with friends like Tommy Robinson, we will build stronger bridges of solidarity, fight terror, and defend Western civilization and our shared values. The horrific Manchester attack has strengthened his conviction that the United Kingdom and Israel are fighting the same battle against the scourge of Islamic jihad.
We spoke about that in 2003. We started to do our work because of all these things that we could see in the UK. And this is 22 years now. Amazing.
Now, Western executives who are visiting China are coming back terrified, Nathalie. They are seeing things which has frightened them. Well, what has frightened Western executives, these strong CEOs from Western companies? What is so terrifying that they've seen in China? And it is robots. Executives from the West have described vast dark factories where robots do much of the work alone, so much work alone without humans that they don't even need to leave the lights on because the robots don't need them. Andrew Forrest from mining giant, the Australian CEO, the giant Fortescue, says his trips to China convinced him to abandon his company's attempts to manufacture in-house. I can tell you the factories in China now where you'll basically be alongside a big conveyor and the machines come out of the floor and begin to assemble parts. He said, you're walking alongside this conveyor, and after about 800 to 900 meters, a truck drives out. There are no people around. Everything is robotic. As I mentioned before, other executives describe vast dark factories where they don't need the lights on. One executive from the United Kingdom described the production of astronomical production of mobile phones in China. He is Greg Jackson, the boss of British energy supplier Octopus, and says the process was so heavily automated that there were no workers on the manufacturing site. Just a small number who were there to ensure the plant was working. They don't actually have any humans at all, other than working the electricity and the gates, or even the gates. They have robotic gates and robots in reception, etc. You get this sense of change. This is what Greg Jackson says, where China's competitiveness has gone from being about government subsidies and low wages to a tremendous number of highly skilled engineers. A big part of the transformation is down to the country's focus on automation and the use of robots. Figures recently released by the International Federation of Robotics show that this has led to a dramatic and high-tech transformation of China's industry base over the past 10 years. Between 2014 2024, the number of industrial robots, listen to this, has gone from 189,000, that was how much there were in 2014. What's the number today? 2 million. 2 million robots being used in industry in China.
So some people will say, well, this is good, they're doing the work and all of that. But when you think again with the word of God, it's like God love humanity. God loves us. And he says also to do things, like we have 6 days to work and 1 day to rest. And he wants to have relationship with us. This is his main things, that we are in love with him, and he's in love with us, and it's a relationship that is going between God, our creator, and us. And so when you see all these things, we know that there is an elite, and the elite doesn't want us. They don't want human, which is, again, when you see the beginning, because we are back into Genesis right now, reading with the Jewish people, the Tanakh, the beginning of, and they read the first 5 books of Moses, and we're in Genesis, and it's like God created the heaven and the earth, and 6 days he created all the world for us, and then he created us. And this was like his dream and what he wanted. But now when you see what's happening, is like, also we need to know that we took the place of Satan. How do you say
Satan.
Satan, sorry. And he, because he was an angel of light, he was very close to God, he was like worshipping him, and he had a very special place. And he said in one of the Psalms, why did you make man a bit lower, but you still love him so much? And this is what we're speaking about, this relationship that God has. And we know that Yeshua came to show us the way, how to connect with God. Like the Jewish people had the Torah, but us as the Gentiles, we needed somebody to show us the way. And Jesus, Jewish man, show us the way. And it's so important that we realize in our daily life all the time that we are so precious, that all the people who are around us are so precious, that we're not just a body, but we're also a soul, and that our soul is in our body. And Satan hates that relationship that we have with God. He's jealous of us. So he hasn't changed. He always wants to fight us because he wants to displace us, and he wants also to have the worship of men. So the one who wants richness, the one who wants power, they are linking with Satan. And it's very interesting to know that we have to be with God. We need to know his word. We need to know that we are made in the image of God, like every one of us. Sick, not sick, disabled, not disabled, from any nations, we are made in the image of God. And he delights when we are reconciled together, reconciled with him. And if we are not, we need to work on that. We need to work on peace. And it is not coming from outside, it's coming from us. And we need really to link with God now in this time, because we are in a very terrible time. When you're speaking about Israel and all that's happening here, it's like the Jewish people went also through Exodus, went through terrible time in Egypt, Misraim. And Misraim means narrowness, where they were squeezed. And right now we can see as human people, we are squeezed. And if you remember, Jesus was also, if we can say, squeezed before going onto the cross. He had his own exodus. Is spoken is when Moses and Elijah were speaking together on the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus. They were speaking about his exodus. He knew that he had to die on the cross, on the tree. And now, as human being, we are going through that. And I was reading this last few days, it was in John, and when, the the trial of Jesus. I mean, the entrance of Jesus in Jerusalem, people were like making him king, and then everything turned sour, and they wanted to crucify him. And the very interesting thing is when they were eating the bread, Judas was Jesus put they were dipping the bread, and Judas took the bread and put it in his mouth, and when he put it in his mouth, Satan entered him. I didn't remember that so clearly. And Satan entered in him. So there was a time just at the end of the time where we are going to see this fight. We don't see it only with our eyes. It's like a spiritual fight. We need to see with our spiritual eyes, and we pray that, and we have to pray every day that God open our spiritual eyes to be able to see what's happening in the spiritual realms. And what Jesus said, Yeshua said at that time, he said to Judas, he said, now what you are going to do it quickly. And this is what we are praying now. I think it's very important to know where we are at. And we are really at the end of the time. And like as Yeshua said to Judas, now that Satan entered in him, he said, do what you have to do and do it quickly. And if you remember, and is what we are praying now, that all the things that's happening in the world right now, that it will go quickly. And if you remember, there is some passages, I think Yeshua speak about it, and also Paul and maybe Peter too, speak about God is going to shorten the time at the end because of the elect, because it's going to be so bad, then nobody will be able to cope with it. And he said, okay, I'm going to shorten the time, which is very, very interesting because we can see the blueprint. If you remember during Exodus, it was only 200, if I remember well, it was 230 years for the Exodus, for the slavery in Egypt, and it should have been 410. You might have to look at the time, but I think it was that. It was shortened, okay? Shortened, why? Because he knew that that's it, they couldn't cope anymore. That's it, it was too much. So we are praying now that time will be shortened. That is like a mother who is in labor, and like labor is coming and is like, okay, now baby, you have to come. Yalla, yalla, like we say here, you have to come. And it's important for the mother to still have strength and for the baby to be born healthy. So when there is a time, which is like God knows when it's too much, he says, okay, now to the elect, he said, now I'm going to shorten the time. And we are going to pass on the other side, which should be the millennium, which should be Shabbat time, which be the real peace will come, and it will come by the Prince of Peace, which is Sar Shalom, is the Prince of Peace, the real Prince of Peace, who is going to bring peace on earth, and it will be also in heaven.
And one of the interesting things is we've had the visit of Trump and the peace deal and everything, and after they visited Israel, they went to Egypt, and I believe it was Sham, the coast they went to, where they signed the peace treaty, and everybody was joyful in Israel, and the news was on about, as we said at the beginning, on about peace in our time, peace, that Israel is at peace. But the strange thing is, whilst they might be saying that might be in the news and everything, we feel spiritually that's not the case. The war that's going on in the heavens, the spiritual battles are continuing, and if actually intensifying, they're increasing. So whilst we've got peace in the news and everything, that's not what it's like on the ground with the spiritual battles that are going on in the heavenly dimensions. Now, one of the interesting things is, Nathalie, we've talked a bit about this before on the program about AI. The Israeli Prime Minister's office has just announced the appointment of Brigadier General he's a reservist, as Erez Askal as head of the National Artificial Intelligence Headquarters, National AI. And we've talked about this being a serious issue for Israel, for the world, and for you. How much artificial intelligence is being used. Some of it we don't even know about. Some of it is being used behind our backs. And this is taking place in Israel. And the AI headquarters will be established in the Prime Minister's office, of all places. It could be in Tel Aviv, where all the AI research are, the high-tech places are, Microsoft and different companies and different organizations are involved in AI. But no, it's going to be in Jerusalem in the Prime Minister's office, and it's going to be in charge of or responsible for infrastructure, energy, research, and it's going to promote supercomputing. Well, what is supercomputing? Supercomputing is super intelligence, defined as AI that can surpass human intelligence. And if you want to know more about that, you'll have to do your own research, because we've run out of time on the program. Thank you so much to everybody who is supporting the program. We so much appreciate your financial support, which makes it possible for us to do the program today. If you're not financially supporting us, please consider that, because it enables us to do future programs. You can go to the website www.israelfirst.org. A lot of information there. We try to do a daily news program, which you can get on the Israel media page. There's a donate page where you can do your donations, and those are very much appreciated. And thank you so much again to everybody who makes it possible. And remember, we're the program that looks at the land, the people, and the language.